Hi, I recently came across a very interesting set of slides that were from some years ago. I think it was 2003, thereabouts. I was invited by the Prime Minister of Malaysia, a bunch of us, not just me. We went to Kuala Lumpur and gave this presentation, very well received. I was living in Sri Lanka at the time. It's not exactly on the doorstep, but you can understand that they're pretty well neighbours with Malaysia. Anyway, I called it my nutrition bullets, and I've got to say it was pretty well received. So I think I'm going to share that slideshow with you right now. Let's do it. So here we are, nutrition bullets, practical nutritionology. Well, you must recognise there's no such word. It's just a joke. Okay. But one of the first problem with standard nutrition is losing focus by concentrating on isolated technical information and spurious quantitative measurements that doesn't really lead to a workable science of nutrition. You know, they like to tell you need this much and that much is too much and everybody should have, and so forth. Doesn't work, basically. That's the trouble. Problem two. The creation and repair and maintenance of healthy body tissues can't be reduced to itemized lists of figures. It's not like a shopping list, man. Come on. Doesn't work. I call this nutritional accountancy, and it shows a deplorable lack of understanding of the way that nature works and also the meaning of holistic integration in health. Holistic, it means everything all at once, all taken together. You can't take it piece by piece. It's got to be a whole. Now, another problem is that food content these days means nothing as farming methods change. If foods don't contain enough nutrients, so where are we going to make up the shortfall? You know, we have to have a plan or a strategy. And food today is pretty deficient in most nutrients, face it. Problem number 5, you can't have any meaningful accountancy when one side's bankrupt anyway. And agriculture devised food is bankruptcy by definition, really. Number 6, important, this complex too. But every individual is different and also varies in requirements from time to time. So the same individual can need different nutrients and have a much higher demand at times of stress, times of illness, and so on. Plus the obvious fact that individuals are all different. We all have disparate nutritional requirements at any one time. So we've got people who have different requirements from time to time and different people who also have different requirements. Like I said, it's quite complex. But unless you understand this, you know, you're trying to narrow it down to the average person and what the average person needs. I've written thousands of times, there is no such thing as an average person. So we're left with the fact that the present science of nutrition is basically a fraud and needs ousting in place of something with more wisdom and workability. Problem number 8. So stepping back, looking at the bigger picture, we feel, well, that is, I feel, the way to teach people better nutrition and get a fuller grasp of this concept of holism, the all at once, you know, holism, natural living, is the bullet point. So these make up the view, as it were, from 10,000 feet, not 30,000 feet, but I think we're down to 10,000 feet. Okay, so I've got 10 basic simple rules here. Rule 1, nobody's going to cure anything to last, no matter how brilliant you are, whatever the healing method you're using. It isn't going to amount to much if the patient is in a negative nutritional balance. You can't build health from nothing. I think there's a word or a line in The Sound of Music somewhere. You can't get nothing from nothing. Now, simple rule 2. Nothing in the body's fixed. It all changes every few months, in fact. And therefore, nutrition is a vital construction factor. We need the building blocks. We need the building bricks to be able to build anew. Otherwise, it all breaks down. Rule 3. What you're eating, this is, by the way, this is my major contribution to medicine and nutritional science. What you're eating that you shouldn't is of far more importance than what you're not eating that you should. I learned this back in the late 70s, early 80s. Call it food allergies, whatever you like, but there's much more case gain, much more recovery to be had from giving up stuff that's bad for you. Call it food allergies, food intolerance, whatever you like, doesn't matter. The point is that, if you're allergic to milk, stopping drinking milk is going to get far more case gain than taking vitamins and minerals. I've seen people cure, arthritis, migraine, and ADHD, ADD, even schizophrenia, almost anything you can name, depression, almost anything you can name by giving up certain foodstuffs. So bear that in mind. And nutrition tends to be about what you should add, but a fundamental facet of nutrition is giving up what you shouldn't be doing. And it's different, again, different from everybody. You can't say everyone should give up this and everyone should give up that. Okay, I've got people who they can tolerate grains and wheat and gluten and grains quite well, but they're really ill with anything from the onion family. You can't categorize and say these are bad for everybody and these are good for everybody. No such thing as a superfood, by the way. Every superfood anyone's ever named, ever, I have 1, 2, or a dozen people who are violently allergic to that superfood, and it would make them very ill. Silly concept. Now, this is important. Rule 4, natural foods in their natural state manifest energetic properties that bear no relation to their biochemical composition. This is another way of saying that the whole is more than the part. When you put the pieces together, you get something very different than just a collection of parts. And I wish more people understood that. It's a shame. All right, rule 5. Again, important. What's swallowed doesn't equate to nutrition. Because you swallow it doesn't mean you really absorbed it, or that it went into your metabolic program. Malabsorption and dysbiosis, these are kind of poor absorption mechanisms, are very rampant, quite honestly. Digestive unwellness is more or less the norm. So don't believe that what you just swallow is exactly what you're getting as nutrition. That's naive. We need to look beyond that. Okay, number 6. RDAs, recommended dietary allowances, or whatever equivalents people put forward for these. They take no account of different rates of absorption, individual biological variations, stress demands, or that the minimum requirement that's required for fatal avitaminosis to avoid that is totally different, a completely different concept, the amount that's required for optimum nutrition. Not dying of scurvy or beriberi is nowhere near the same as being in full, vibrant health. And yet all they concentrate on is the teeny amount that will stop you dying of avitaminosis. Crazy. All right, number 7. No nutrients act alone. They're all interdependent. So then there's tens of thousands of studies come out every year, but all studies which purport to examine the effects of single vitamins and minerals in isolation are likely to be misleading. In fact, they're likely to be complete hogwash and hooey. You can't rely on them. Now, there's another dimension of nutrition, apart from, just building health and so on, which is to do with detoxification. It's a life-saving factor in the modern world. We live in a very toxic world. We can't have functioning enzymes and mechanisms to keep our bodies healthy and poison-free if certain essential nutrients are lacking. So whenever you hear these phonies saying, a balanced diet is all you need, a balance of what? A balance of inadequate foods and foods that are lacking nutrients in themselves. What's the use of that? And plus we need extra bomb-proofing and reinforcement against toxins so that our body has the mechanisms to eliminate them efficiently. Right, number 9, foodstuffs, notably plants, contain pharmacologically active substances, drugs if you like. The effect of these chemicals can be rightly seen as a sub-function of nutrition. It is a very vast subject, and it's beyond anything I'm going to talk about here, but eating plants is a veritable chemical workshop, if you like. And then number 10, what goes in doesn't necessarily come out. We've got evidence from colonics, for example, when people are given colonics, show food residues emerging from many years before. When you use the right treatment, the colon starts to dump it all and it emerges. I remember a patient of mine who recognized some colored balls that are used, like little tiny balls that are used as a food coloring, stuck on the outside. We call them hundreds and thousands in England. I have no idea what you call them in the States. But she recognized them, and she'd never eaten the things in her adult life. She hadn't eaten them for decades. But she remembered them as a child, and all of a sudden, 40 years later, a whole bunch of these things emerge. Well, what does that tell you about the food that you eat as well? It gets stuck inside, doesn't go anywhere, and is probably not being absorbed and not doing what it should or what you think it should. Okay, so we got 20th century challenges, of course. One of the big things is anti-aging. We boomers want to go on partying till our last day on earth. But we've got now worries about carbohydrate control, that's obesity, pre-diabetes, diabetes itself, of course, syndrome X, which is metabolic syndrome, diabetes itself, and you sometimes hear the term diabesity. We were interested in detoxification, as I've just said. We have to have efficient detoxification now. Wasn't a problem 100 years ago, but it certainly is now. We need antioxidants because oxidative stress is now very high in our environment, and this damages cells, cell membranes, it damages your mitochondria, which are absolutely vital for healthy living. And also we now understand that diet and cancer are very closely linked, they're very important, and go together in effect. Okay, so anti-aging, well, we need more natural foods. The way our ancestors did it was quite good. By the way, don't think Victorians all died at the age of 30. Their life expectancy was pretty low, but that was because of the distressing wastage in kids. It was very unusual for kids to get to about the age of 10. They didn't make it. So that brought down the average life expectancy. But if you look at historical figures, like Charles Dickens and other people, some of them lived to a great old age, 80 or 90 years old, because they got through the dangers of the childhood period. And they ate more natural foods, and they were healthier. I mean, Victorians, I believe, walked an average of about 20 miles a day. Of course, there were no cars, there were no buses, taxis. The rich folks had their hansom cabs and things, but most people just walked, and it was very good for them, of course. And anti-aging supplements would include phosphatidylserine and phosphatidylcholine. These are great for fats in the brain. Of course, it's the brain, mainly the brain, and of course the heart that we think of when we're trying to fight aging, anti-aging. These are the main organs, target organs. We need methyl donors, things like N-acetylcholine and acetylcysteine. These are very important. Lipoic acid and acetyl L-carnitine, great detoxers again. And then for memory, vinpocetine, which is probably the number one memory repair. Ginkgo is famous, but vinpocetine is better, put it that way. We need lots of omega-3s to make healthy brain fats. These are brain preservers. And DHEA and other hormonal precursors. Pregnenolone is the sort of master hormone. These are very important to healthy aging. I've already mentioned detoxification. It's actually technically called biotransformation because not all changes result in something less toxic. Sometimes it results in something more toxic. So it is biotransformation, not necessarily detoxification, but of course that's what we're really interested in. And the master molecule here is glutathione, and the precursors N-acetylcysteine, alpha-lipoic acid, and so on. We need magnesium. It's involved in over 300 detox pathways. That makes it pretty pivotal. Don't forget vitamin C. That's a massively important detox compound. If you've been chemically overwhelmed and you feel yuck, take really big doses, 20, 30 grams if you can, of vitamin C, because it's a great cleanser and detoxer. This fools doctors and scientists. They all think of it. It's a vitamin you need, a teeny itty bit to stop you getting scurvy. They don't understand what vitamin C does. It's a superb antitoxin as well. There are detox pathways which we need to preserve. Phase 1 pathway is called transformation or biotransformation. And this needs zinc, iron, molybdenum, certain other B6, certain other things to make it work efficiently. And then phase 2 pathway, detox pathway, which we call conjugation. That's sticking things together so that they become water soluble and can be excreted. That needs sulfur, and that's where glutathione, of course, comes in as well. Now, cancer, I mentioned cancer, diet, nutrition. There's a clear link. 1 in 2 men will get cancer at some time in their lives. More than 1 in 3 women, but not quite so many as men. You'd think because of the pink ribbons and everything, women suffer more than men, but actually it's not true. Men have the bigger problem with this. 40% of all cancer, this is, minimum research, it's been proven time and time again, at least 40% of all cancers are preventable with a sound diet, with eating the right things, and, as I said before, not eating the wrong things. Therapeutic diets, of course, the good things, the great things to eat, avoid toxic foods and residues. And rich supplementation has been shown to have protective effects, but let me tell you this, you're not going to beat cancer just by taking vitamin and mineral supplements. It'll do your health good, but what you eat is more important. You're talking microdoses of supplement, whereas you're talking several ounce chunks of a food that you might be eating. Of course, it's more important. Hi, well, I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. I did just talk about one thing before the very end. I introduced vitamin L. It's a joke. I don't know if you've heard of this. Vitamin L is basically love. And it's a very important nutrient indeed. Love of life, love of others, love of self, of course, and love, you probably know, heals all ills. There's nothing better than being loved. Marriage is a very powerful health insurance. And even if you're divorced, you still have much better survival statistics than those that never married. As one wit said, they quoted Alfred Lord Tennyson's poem, can't remember the name of the poem, but it's better to have loved and lost than to not have loved at all. Okay, thanks for watching.